Hare Krishna. So till now we have discussed that who is qualified to hear and who is not qualified to hear. So who is not qualified to hear? We discussed that there are four kinds of people. Which was that verse 18.67. So na tapaskaya, na shushave, na ja bhaktaya abhyasuyati. This kind of people, these are the people who are not qualified to hear Bhagavad Gita. Then we discussed who is qualified to hear Bhagavad Gita. And we are continuing the same topic now, who is qualified to hear Bhagavad Gita. So again, we are going to discuss about four kinds of people who are qualified to hear Bhagavad Gita. So the first are those who are Aryans, civilized people, Aryans. Aryans, who are born on this land of Bharatvarsha. Because outside this land of Bharatvarsha, we read that purport, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya. In the purpose, it is written. No, not in that purport. Which was that purport which you read? The principle of Bhagavad Gita was spoken for Arjuna, not meant for human beings in other parts of the world. So the principles of Bhagavad Gita is not meant for human beings in other parts of the world. That's what Krishna says. So in other parts of the world, who all the other living entities who stay in other parts of the world? Kirat, Hunandra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Avhira, Summa, Yavana, Kasade. Like that. These are the people. So they are not Bhagavad Gita, they are not civilized people. So this is the first, and they are the first people who deserve to listen Bhagavad Gita, understand Bhagavad Gita are the Aryans. Another class within the Varnashram Dharma, within the civilized society means Varnashram Dharma. So within the Varnashram Dharma, there are three classes of men who are qualified to hear, who are qualified for understanding Bhagavad Gita: Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya. So, and they are considered as civilized within the Varnashram, and especially the Kshatriyas. This is being mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Why Brahmanas are not mentioned? Somebody was asking. Yeah, so we'll discuss later. That topic will come. That why if Brahmanas are not being mentioned, Bhagavad Gita is meant for Brahmanas. But it specifically mentioned that Bhagavad Gita is meant for Raj Rishis. Evam Raj Rishayo Vidu. So why it is meant for Kshatriyas? The first reason, this is the second point. The second class of people who are qualified to hear Bhagavad Gita are the Kshatriyas. First the Aryans, and within the Aryan society, the Kshatriyas are qualified to hear Bhagavad Gita. So the first reason which we discussed is to protect themselves, so that the Kshatriyas should not get overwhelmed by compassion and material attachments, right? As it happened in the case of Arjuna. So to protect themselves from ignorance, because we discussed last class, we discussed in the third chapter, in the ending of the third chapter, Lord Krishna warns about the dangers of lust, and then it is mentioned that the Kshatriyas should understand this science of Bhagavad Gita, so that they should not get overwhelmed by these dangers of lust, attachment, illusion. And we discussed in the fourth chapter, first verse purport, second chapter, first verse purport, the definition of knowledge and ignorance. What is knowledge and what is ignorance? We read that from the purport of second chapter, first verse. So they are supposed to protect themselves, and also they are supposed to establish dharma. So the Kshatriyas are they are qualified to hear Bhagavad Gitas, so that they can preach dharma by their own example. Yad jad acharati shreshthas tat tadevetaro, so that they can preach dharma. So the duty of Kshatriyas we discussed is they are supposed to, there is a gross duty and there is a subtle duty. The gross duty is to protect the citizens from gross threats like Praja Rakshan, Shastra Pani, Pradandayan. Like if there is some crime, criminal activities, or if there is some gross violation of civil laws or social laws, then the Kshatriya is supposed to dandayan, to punish them and give them a lesson. But this is the gross activity. The subtle duty of the Kshatriya is to uplift the citizens from lust, ignorance. They are supposed to uplift them from bondage. They are supposed to uplift them, protect them from that. This is the subtle duty of the Kshatriyas, and this is more important because in Bhagavad Gita, that is being talked about. Because in third chapter, lust was being spoken. In the fourth chapter, the Kshatriya should learn Bhagavad Gita so they can uplift the citizens from this bondage of lust. So how they are going to uplift them? It is mentioned in the fourth chapter, first verse. Take out fourth chapter, first verse. How they are going to uplift them? It is said, just human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Right? Here we are seeing fourth chapter, first verse. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. How they are going to uplift the citizens? It is said here. By education, culture, and devotion. So these are, it is specifically mentioned. The executive head, this instruction is given for the executive head of all the states. They are supposed to uplift citizens by education, culture, and devotion. So, so we concluded that the Kshatriyas are meant to understand Bhagavad Gita so that they can protect themselves and therefore they can impart spiritual knowledge, or they can impart the science of Bhagavad Gita to protect people from lust. In the history, we have seen that there were many pseudo Kshatriyas, like Ashoka. So who made their citizens to follow some whimsical dharma. They are pseudo Kshatriyas. So if the Kshatriyas are not trained properly, then they will introduce this kind of whimsical dharmas and they will pressurize the citizens to follow them. Similarly, we can see in the present state that there is democracy or democracy. So the whole society is forced to follow this artificial system, which is called as democracy. Now, the fact that this kind of systems are prevailing in the society, it means that there is no powerful Kshatriya in the society. Because if there would have been a powerful Kshatriya, then he would have never tolerated this kind of things happening in the society. It's not possible. Like we see in the case of Prithu Maharaj. There the Prabhupada writes, it is unfortunate for those states where there are no lion-like kings and women are ruling those states. Prabhupada says like that. Said that there are no powerful kings and women are ruling those states. So it is happening. Women are taking this ruling positions. That shows that there are no powerful men. There are no men like lion. It is that Prabhupada says there. So this kind of demoniac systems are prevailing and people are forced to follow. This itself should be an alarming situation for people in general. So it is not that Vedic culture is against sense gratification. Sense gratification is okay, but it should be in a dharmic way. It's not that in the Vedic culture, sense gratification was condemned. The sense gratification was not condemned. People used to have wives. They used to have more than one wife, more than 10 wives, and they used to have sensual satisfaction. But the whole arrangement that was that should be dharma. That dharma should be followed. So, and not only dharma, not only that people should just follow dharma for regulating their sensual life, but also people should follow dharma so that they can be promoted to Atma Vidya. Like Kshatriyas were learning this Dhanur Vidya, the science of archery. But along with Dhanur Vidya, they are supposed to learn Atma Vidya. Leave it, do it later. It is there, there are so many here. So along with Dhanur Vidya, there is Atma Vidya. So if there is no Atma Vidya and people are just busy in learning Dhanur Vidya, then what will happen? They'll get overwhelmed by material attachment. Right? They'll get overwhelmed by material attachment. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam. Among all the Vidyas, who Krishna is Adhyatma Vidya. So if there is no Adhyatma Vidya, then everything is useless. If there is no knowledge of self-realization, then even though you practice regulated life of Varnashram Dharma, or even though you practice different kinds of knowledge of warfare, and you may become very skillful, but there is no, if there is no Adhyatma Vidya, then it is meaningless. So it is said here in the 4th chapter, first verse, we'll read. The history of Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The kings of all planets are specially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and planets are obliged to impart this lesson. It is said, human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. So the important thing is Atma Vidya, spiritual knowledge. That should go, that if that is not there, then there is no point. Cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality, and the executive head of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson. In other words, by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness, so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. So they should, you are able to follow it, what I am reading? Or you're just searching? Yeah. The executive head of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness, so that people may take advantage of this great science. So they're not just to make a systematic arrangement for sensual life. Satyas are not just meant to do that make everything organized in a nice way so that people can enjoy sensual life. That is one level of dharma, that sensual life should be done in dharmic way. That is one level of dharma, but that is not just the final thing. They are supposed to spread the science of Krishna consciousness. That is being mentioned here, the Atma Vidya. Therefore, they are supposed to learn this, spread the science of Krishna consciousness, because that is the purpose of human form of life. Similarly, in the 4th chapter, 2nd verse also, the first line, if you see, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, it is clearly stated that the Gita was specially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. But certainly, Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demoniac persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and devise all types of interpretations. So Bhagavad Gita is specially meant for the saintly kings. They were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Again, it is said, it is meant for the saintly kings, so that they can spread Krishna consciousness and fulfill the purpose of human life. So that is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, why it is being imparted to Kshatriyas. So we discussed that first it is meant for the Aryans, then it is meant for the Kshatriyas, and within the later it is meant for those people who are seeking self-realization. Now we are going to discuss that. Kshatriyas we discussed, it is meant for the Kshatriyas. Now we will be discussing that how it is meant for those people who are seeking self-realization. So if you see in the 4th chapter, more than half of the chapter discusses that how by performance of sacrifices it leads to transcendental knowledge. How yajna leads to transcendental knowledge. एवं कर्म अखिलम पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते एवं बहुविधा यज्ञ वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्म जान विद्धितान सर्वान. How is that shloka? So all this, the essence is all these different kinds of yajnas, bahuvidha yajna. So all these different kinds of yajnas are supposed to lead us to transcendental knowledge. All these different kinds of prescribed yajnas are nothing but prescribed duties. The duties of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Tell him to stand there. To stand this. Stand and listen. So this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is meant for Kshatriyas, and this Yagyas, we are talking about Yagyas. So Yagyas lead to transcendental knowledge. Evam karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. That all the Yagyas, they are supposed to lead towards transcendental knowledge. So transcendental knowledge is compared to boat, which will help us to cross nescience. Sir, Gyan Plavene Santarishyasi. Sarvam Gyan Plavene Vijnam Santarishyasi. So Gyan is compared to a boat. It will help us to cross the ocean of nescience. But by the end of the 4th chapter, Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he started discussing in a reverse way. If you see in the 42nd shloka, he discusses that how ignorance can be removed. He starts from that point. That how, in a reverse way, that how the ignorance can be removed. So there he discusses that by following Varnashram Dharma or by following regulated life of eating, sleeping, mating, ignorance will be removed and people will be promoted to civilized life. But is it that just by following the regulated life of eating, sleeping, mating, ahar, nidra, bhay, maithunam cha samanya tat pashubi naranam dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesh, that talks about that one should be dharmic and regulate. Dharmic in terms of what? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But the point is it that just by following dharma, in enjoying eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, one will be promoted to the platform of knowledge? His ignorance will be removed. If we regulate our eating, sleeping, mating, no. What is required is, so this regulated life of eating, sleeping, dharmic life of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending will create a platform for knowledge. It will give a foundation for knowledge, where one can cultivate Atma Vidya. The essence is Atma Vidya. It's Krishna consciousness. Right? So that's why it is said, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. So Baldev Vidya Bhushan, in his commentary on Govind Mahasya, he mentions the meaning of Athato Brahma Jigyasa. What is the meaning of Athato? Athato, Atah, Atah. Atah means now being born in the human form of life. Atah. And not all, although we are being born in human form of life, now since we have got a civilized human life, Atah will come out to be Atha. So when these two things are combined, then the final thing, the third thing comes, which is Brahma Jigya. First human form of life, then civilized human form of life will give us a foundation for Brahma Jigyasa. So Athato Brahma Jigyasa. It's not that just one should follow dharma. And in Bhagavad Gita, if you see, if one simply follows dharma for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, ignoring Atma Vidya, ignoring the science of the self, then it will be as good as Karma Kanda. Right? It will be as good as Karma Kanda. And in Bhagavad Gita, if you see, Krishna did not condemn hedonistic lifestyle of outlaws, those who are not there in the society. Like Krishna did not condemn the hedonism of those people who are not followers of Vedic Dharma. Krishna condemns the sensual life of followers of Vedic Dharma. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanta vipaschita. He calls them avipaschita. He condemns the sensuality of followers of Vedic Dharma who on the who taking the side of or taking advantage of the Vedic literatures. They promote sensual enjoyment. Krishna condemns that. So it is very clear that simply civilized life is as good as karma kanda, and Krishna heavily condemns karma kanda in the second chapter. Bhogashwarya prasuttanam taya aparita chetasam. That one's intelligence is stolen, one who is absorbed in Bhogashwarya. So we can conclude that ignorance can be removed uh, not just by regulated life of eating and sleeping and waiting, not just by following dharmic varnashram dharma of eating, sleeping, waiting, but it should be combined with atmavidya. That is very clear. So Srila Prabhupada very frequently quotes Rinam Kritva Charvak Muni Shloka. Anybody can say Rinam Kritva घृतम पिबेद यावत् जीवे सुखम जीवेद भस्मी भूतस्य देहस्य किम पुनर् आगमनो भवेत्. Rinam Kritva Ghritam Pivet. That one should enjoy life by drinking ghee, and one should take loan and enjoy. So Srila Prabhupada writes there that at least people in the Vedic culture, they were civilized sense enjoyers. Not that they were eating meat for to enjoy. At least they were drinking ghee and enjoying. So that is still better. That is called dharmic way of enjoying life, or a civilized way of enjoying. So that is better. But is that the goal? No, that is not the goal. One should promote oneself to the platform of self-realization. So we'll read this 4th chapter, 42nd verse, purport. In the last, there Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely. This purport is very, very important. So take out 4th chapter, 42nd verse, purport, and start reading. Hari Bhakti, start reading. This ignorance can be removed by gradual. In the next page, you say ignorance can be removed. Are you going to see? By gradual acceptance of Krishna consciousness. I'll read. Ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is awakened by different types of sacrifices to the demigods, sacrifice to Brahman, sacrifice in celibacy, in household life, in controlling the senses, in practicing mystic yoga, in penance, in foregoing material possessions, in studying the Vedas, and in partaking of the social institution called Varnashram Dharma. All these are known as sacrifice, and all of them are based on regulated action. But within all these activities, the important factor is self-realization. One who seeks that objective is the real student of Bhagavad Gita. Here it is mentioned, who is the real student of Bhagavad Gita? One who seeks that. What is being referred here? What one is supposed to seek? Where is your Bhagavad Gita? This Bhakti Shastri is going on and there is no Bhagavad Gita. Bring Bhagavad Gita. We are studying Bhagavad Gita. Spaced out. Don't be spaced out. So the important factor is self-realization. So one is supposed to follow self-realization. One who seeks that objective is the real student of Bhagavad Gita. But one who doubts the authority of Krishna falls back. Okay. So here we understand. Another. Also in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, where the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is being mentioned. I'll just read that also. That is also very important. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, this is one of the most important purposes in Bhagavad Gita. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position, as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering, but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jigyasa, Thato Brahma Jigyasa. Every activity of the human being is considered to be a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering or where they came from and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. Lord Shri Krishna descends. So here we can see. Therefore, those who begin to question as why they are suffering or where they came from are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. Right? Huh? This is an introduction. It's difficult to find. I'll tell you later on. Just here. Lord Krishna descends specifically to re-establish the real purpose of life when man forgets that purpose. Even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of Bhagavad Gita, the spirit of understanding his position. And for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. You see? To whom Bhagavad Gita is spoken? Out of many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. There are many human beings who are awakened, who are not in ignorance. They are awakened. But out of those awakened human beings also, there will be hardly one who actually enters the spirit of understanding Bhagavad Gita. Rest all of them will be absorbed in civilized sense gratification. They will take advantage of the Vedic principles or Krishna consciousness also. When Prabhupada was asked that where all your disciples are going to Vaikuntha, and Prabhupada said most of them will go to heavenly planets. Why? Because there is hardly one who is really understanding the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. Rest all of them are busy just for taking advantage of Bhagavad Gita for their material life. They want to use spirituality to make their material life happy. Right? But there is one who actually understands the spirit of Bhagavad Gita and re-establish one's relationship with Krishna. And for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. So this is very important to understand. That simply by regulated sense gratification, ignorance won't be removed. It may, at max, set a platform for knowledge and for self-realization. And human life is meant for self-realization, and this Krishna conscious movement is supposed to promote self-realization. And he is the qualified student of Bhagavad Gita who takes on that spirit to cultivate self-realization. And this is the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. So finally, we understood that Bhagavad Gita is meant for Aryans. Within the Aryan society, it is meant for the Kshatriyas. And further, it is meant for the people who are seekers of self-realization. Seekers of self-realization. Just by following Kshatriya duty, that is not sufficient. Kshatriyas should promote self-realization. It is specifically meant for the seekers of self-realization. Atma Vidya. Adhyatma. How is that slogan? Vidyanam Adhyatma Vidya. Something like that. So, and further, it is meant for devotees only. Further, it will be discussed. It is going up. No, it is going up. Further, it is meant for devotees only. In the 18th chapter, 68 verse, you can see. 18. Jaidam paramam guhyam vad bhakteshu avidhasati bhakti mai param kritva mam vivashyasi asanshaya. 18th chapter, 68. So generally, this shloka is quoted for the preachers. One who is preaching Bhagavad Gita is very dear to him. So Prabhupada writes in the purport. Generally, it is advised that Bhagavad Gita be discussed among the devotees only. For those who are not devotees, will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is and Bhagavad Gita as it is should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become sovereign. So that is different. So the first line is important. For those who are not devotees, will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. So not just if you seek self-realization, also you may not be able to understand Bhagavad Gita. One should have devotion. Seekers of self-realization should have the element of devotion also, right? And it is written also, if they doubt the authority of Krishna, right? Sometimes people say that the Bhagavad Gita was not spoken by Krishna. There was somebody behind Krishna. There was a light who spoke Bhagavad Gita, or Shiva spoke Bhagavad Gita. So like that. So these are doubting the authority of Krishna because of lack of devotion and faith. Faith because lack of faith and devotion. So it is said that those who are not devotees will neither understand Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. So finally we understood that who is qualified to hear Bhagavad Gita? The Aryans. Within the Aryan society, the Kshatriyas specifically, and seekers of self-realization, and finally, specifically, the devotees. So we'll end here. If there is any question, you can ask. Brahmanas. Yeah, we'll discuss that. It will come later. We'll discuss that. Yeah, it is not mentioned in Bhagavad Gita specifically. Like it is mentioned for Kshatriyas, for Brahmanas, that emphasis is not given. We'll discuss on that, why it is not. Any other question?
So, self-realization person is given for self-realization.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why it is mentioned that those who don't have devotion, those who are not devotees, will not be able to understand again. Yeah, because the faith on Krishna is not there. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The followers of impersonalism, they also want to understand Bhagavad Gita. They also read Bhagavad Gita and they understand the few concepts of Bhagavad Gita, but they fail to understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which is devotion to Krishna. Saradharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Right? So until unless one is a devotee, even though he may be a seeker of self-realization, but he will not be able to fully understand Bhagavad Gita. That's why it is called a secret. Bhaktya maam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvata. We will discuss when we'll go verse by verse discussion. Then these things will come in detail. That why devotees are the only one. Why people who seek self-realization are not. So this will come in detail. Any other question? Culture, education, this Krishna conscious education. Yeah, bhakti. That there is a educational part of Krishna consciousness where we study scriptures, where we read different kinds of books, so that to educate ourselves, who is God, what is our relationship with God, what is this material world, how this material world is in the science. These are to study. This may not seem to be directly connected to Krishna when you study that how Maya works, how we are entangled in the cycle of birth and death. Right? This may not seem to be directly connected to Krishna. In that case, if you directly discuss some Gopi Leela or some Leelas of Vrindavan, that may seem to be more Krishna conscious. So education is to have an overall understanding of the Vedic literatures, the Sambandha Gyan, that is really referred as Sambandha Gyan. Bhakti comes in the Avideya, the process. The process is bhakti. But what is the Sambandha? That is education. That may not be direct bhakti to understand the Sambandha Gyan, but that sets a platform so that, because until unless you understand who you are, who is God, what is my relationship with God, first you have to understand that. then only you can start the process of exchanging love and emotions. That the process of exchanging love and emotions with God is called bhakti. But before the bhakti will begin, first you have to understand who is God, who am I, what is this material world, how I'm entangled in this material world, how I can get out of the world, why I'm suffering. All these things you have to understand. This is called education. And then you have to practice it. And you understand this material world is temporary, I am eternal. Then you have to practice it. That is called culture. Practicing the philosophy, what you have read in the books, that is called culture. Culture is a practical manifestation of philosophy. You really want to understand what is philosophy and what is culture? Culture is the practical manifestation of व्यवहारिक रूपांतरण. दर्शन का व्यवहारिक रूपांतरण है संस्कृति. That's why Prabhupada established this varnashram farms. Because what you're reading in the books, you have to practice it. This modern society is demoniac, factories are demoniac, and so devotees are going on working in that. Okay, they may be caught up in that net, but what is this that we are called so much caught up that we pass our whole life and we didn't think of to come out. This that means we are taking our we are taking this helplessness as our advantage. Yes, we are talking about that modern society is demoniac, but we're sad, at the side we are taking advantage of it. We are enjoying in this society. So we have to practice the philosophy, we have to hear the philosophy, and then we have to practice it, what Prabhupada said. And that's why Prabhupada established these farm communities, Varnashram Dharma, so that devotees will come and live together. I was asking this Puran, you know what he said? I asked him how many months he used to work. He knows everything of farming. He used to himself plow with on the field with ox and all. Well, maximum 3 months hard work. Then after that, there is no work. Then what people do nowadays? So they're doing hadiya, mahua, you know, in Jharkhand. That's a local drink, homemade. They make liquor homemade, so they enjoy that. But I'm just saying that now they have got corrupt, so they are doing like that. But actually, there's hardly any work. Once in 3 years, because you can plow the field only in the rainy season. The water will be there. You cannot plow in the field in the summer or when the sun is there. So you just do work for 3 months. Like I don't know the exact intricacies of farming, but uh, he said like that. That they used to work only for 3 months, and he said that there will be so many grains that once 1 year if the grains come, it will go for 5 years minimum. 5 years sufficient grain. Then next year the grain will come. What you will do with that? Again next year grain will come. What you will do with that? The nature is giving so much abundant, and we have created a situation of scarcity. Just see the demoniac mindset of people. Why they have done like that? Because if there is no scarcity, the prices of the food will come down, and if the price of the food will come down, then there will be less exchange of money. The transactions will reduce, and people will become self-reliant. Then again, if they grow their own food, then they'll not purchase, and if they'll not purchase, then how there will be transaction of money, and then there will be no transaction of money, then how GDP will rise? Because GDP is based on total transaction of assets or money is GDP. And if there's no transaction of money, then where is the GDP? So there is a planned propaganda which is going on that people should not grow their food. People should not be self-reliant. And if devotees understanding this fact, if they don't take an action, then what to expect from people in general? What to expect from them? We are aware of the fact that this is Krishna's system. This modern society is demoniac. This economic system is demoniac. We are hearing Prabhupada's lecture. We are hearing in that this is demoniac. Being aware of this fact, if we don't take a step to put our philosophy into practice, then what is the point? It is just in words. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittite Koriya. Just go on singing for 1,000 years. This is going to happen. You have to put this philosophy into practice. Otherwise, there is no point. So that's what I was saying. That regulated, regulated sensual life can only be done in Varnashram Dharma, and then only that will set the platform of knowledge. So we are trying to take knowledge in this the modern demoniac society. So that knowledge doesn't fructify because there is no the platform on which we are situated that is very disturbing. We have to do this, we have to do that. There is no time. So there's so much pressure. You have to earn money, right? There's so much pressure. So everything is very exhausting. There's so much disturbance. How you will take knowledge? How we will able to understand Krishna consciousness when we are situated in this disturbing platform of knowledge? So first you have to set a platform where people can take to knowledge, and that is Varnashram, regulated eating, sleeping, meeting. You don't work for 10 hours every day, and then you have time, and then you can cultivate knowledge. Then you can practice it in culture. Then devotion will gradually. Okay.